Hi guys, this is day 29 of the AS Economics Revision Challenge, and today we are doing economic integration. When we look at economies these days, a lot of economies are becoming interdependent over time. A lot of countries are now becoming what we call one single sort of trading bloc, and that trading bloc has resulted in these countries to benefit. So there's a growing formal integration of economies, and that is in regional grouping. For example, in the US and North America, there is NAFTA, which is a free trade agreement. Then there is Mercosur in the Latin American countries, and then there is in Asia something called ASEAN. So what is happening is that this process of integration is helping sort of countries to become sort of reliant on each other in terms of trade. But what is also becoming true is this, that a lot of countries which are not part of these trading agreements or economic integration, they are losing out. So this discussion today is all about, we say there are four stages or four process of economic integration, and it starts off with the free trade agreement, a free trade area, and then builds on to become a custom union. A more tighter sort of integration is a common market, and the last stage is economic and monetary union. So we'll discuss each one in detail. The first one is free trade area. So in a free trade area, what happens is that countries, they agree to remove internal tariffs and quota restrictions on trade with each other or between them, while still allowing members to impose their own pattern of tariff and quotas with non-members. So basically what it means is this, that in a free trade area there is no trade barrier with the members, but each country is allowed to have a different kind of a trade agreement with non-members. So for example, if I have two countries, country A and country B, and let's say they form a a free trade area, then they basically are saying there is no trade barrier with each other, but at the same time B could, for example, put a tariff on C. So B could put a tariff on C, while A could decide not to put a tariff, but could also have what we call a free trade with C. So the members can have no trade barriers in a free trade area, but the members are also allowed to have a common or to have a different external trade policy with non-members. When we look at custom union is basically one step ahead of free trade area, because in a custom union we also do this, that we have what we call a common external trade policy with non-members. So in a custom union, in addition to eliminating tariffs and quotas between member countries, just like free trade area, what you also have is what we call an external tariff or external trade policy with non-members. So now when I draw the diagram, so for example, if I have country A and country B, and they are part of what we call a custom union, then they will have a common external policy with country C. So this B and A, as they both decide to put a tariff, they both will now be putting a tariff together, because then there will be a custom union putting a tariff on country C. That's why for us custom union is a little more stricter or little more tighter than a free trade area. Now let's move on to common market. What is a common market? Well, a common market is one step ahead of custom union. In a common market, we say this, that there is free movement of factors of production between the member nations. So alongside with your custom union is like custom union plus free movement of capital and other factors of production like labor, etc. So this is where, for example, let's say if Spain and Italy decide to form a common market, then people in Spain can easily work in, for example, Italy without any permission, without any permit. And similarly, if Italy and Spain have a common market, then easily people can invest in one country or another, or set up factors of production of like factories and all that without any restrictions. Moving on, we go to the economic and monetary union. And economic union moves, we say, above a common market, because in an economic union, there is not only common sort of tax rate, but there's a common framework for the laws and regulations, and even more policy harmonization. So in an economic union, basically, you have all the features of common market, which means common external trade policy, which means no trade barriers with the members, which also mean free movement of people and capital and so on. But at the same time, you have a common tax rate policy, which is fiscal policy. You also have same laws and regulation, so that no one country can benefit in terms of, or no one member can benefit in terms of sort of a different or unfair advantage. But the idea is also there's a lot of policy harmonization. Now, sometimes what happens is this, that there's also in an economic union a common currency is adopted. Now, this is what we call economic union becoming what we call a monetary union. And a good example of this is Eurozone, where there is one single currency, which is euro, that is being used. So, what are the possible advantages of monetary union? Well, the first advantage of monetary union is that we say this that because we are using the same currency, which is euro, for example, there is a lower transaction cost. You don't need to convert your francs into euro anymore, because every country within the eurozone has the same currency. So, there is lower transaction cost, which means there is no converting currency from one to another, because everyone has the same currency. Also, the fact that now everything is expressed in terms of, for example, euro, there will be greater price transparency. So, for example, if you are planning to buy, for example, a good in France, if it's for €2, while the same good in, for example, Italy is for €1, you know this, that France will be more expensive than Italy. So there is basically easy price comparison that is possible because of the same currency. So we say there is greater price transparency because of the fact that we're using the same currency. Next up is there is no exchange rate risk. Why? Because everyone has the same currency, so nobody is worried about the currency depreciating or appreciating, because everyone is now dealing in euro. So that's a few advantages of having the same currency. But there are certainly some disadvantages as well, which we want to discuss. The first disadvantage of having the same currency is the idea that when you are having the same currency, then you have the same central bank, and if you have the same central bank, then you don't have an independent monetary policy. So, for example, Italy, if they want to reduce their interest rates, that may not be possible if the central bank doesn't want that of the whole monetary union. So, for example, if France and Italy want to have a different monetary policy, that's not possible. And because of this, also a lot of times monetary policy and other policy are interlinked. So, for example, other policies being interlinked will also not be independent, because the macroeconomic sort of policies are strongly interlinked. So we lose what we call our freedom to make our own policies when we follow the same currency. Now we come to the next discussion, which is about evaluation of trading blocks. And we say this, that the two effects that we want to discuss when it comes to trading blocks. One is a good effect, which is what we call trade creation, that can happen in a custom union, or there could also be a possibility of trade diversion that can happen in a custom union. So what is trade creation? We say trade creation is when trade moves away from a high cost domestic producer to a low cost foreign producer within the union. What do we mean by this? So, for example, if right now UK is basically planning to sort of buy goods from Spain, and let's say price from Spain is, for example, $10, but local producer, for example, produces it for $12. Now, if there is no custom union, you will probably put a tariff of $5, and therefore Spain price become $15. Who would you buy from? And the answer is you would probably going to buy from local producer, who is $12 versus after tariff price of $15 from Spain. So the idea goes this, that when you put a tariff, when you remove a tariff, because now Spain is part of our custom union, this price will no longer be 15 because you remove the tariff, and the price will now be only $10. So who will you buy once Spain become part of custom union? And the answer is Spain, because the local producer is selling it for 12 but Spain is selling it for 10, which means that trade will move away from a high cost domestic producer to a low cost producer within the union, which is Spain. How is it good? Well, it is creating trade. Why is it creating trade? Because now there will be lower deadweight losses, there will be more sort of consumer surplus, there will be also more efficiency promoted as an efficient producer is now producing more. But there is also a possibility of what we call a trade diversion. What is trade diversion? Well, we say trade diversion happens when trade moves away from an efficient non-member to a less efficient member within the union. So let's say there are two countries that you can buy from, Spain and Thailand. And let's say if Spain is part of our custom union and Spain has a price of, let's say, $10, while Thailand has a price of $7. Now, because Thailand is not part of our custom union, we put a tariff of $5 on Thailand, so the price becomes 12. But Spain doesn't have a tariff because Spain is part of a custom union. So what will happen is that now trade will move away from a low-cost producer outside the union, which is Thailand, to a high-cost producer within the union, which is Spain. So this would mean now in this case you are putting a tariff on somebody who is more efficient, you are causing deadweight losses, you are causing also consumers domestically to pay more, and therefore we are promoting what we call inefficiency and diverting trade from a good producer to one that is inefficient.